Thanks for coming in, man. But you were telling me a little bit about you work for the Treasury?
Yes, sir.
So,
Yes, sir. So I've been with the federal government for 8 years, and what I like to tell people is, although I'm on the school board, man, I'm getting hit with politics at every level, the federal, state, and local level. So I work for the U.S. Treasury Department, but locally it's the IRS/Treasury Department. And
wait a minute. You can't tell people that you work for the IRS and have them like you.
Right.
What do you do for the IRS, man? You're going to audit me after this?
So I don't deal with any taxes, and so that's a disclaimer. So I work in the IT department. I started off as a network engineer, then I transitioned to the cybersecurity department, and so I'm kind of back doing cybersecurity and networking. But I don't deal with any taxes. I protect taxpayers' information. That is my actual job, and so it's a rewarding job. I've been doing it for 8 years.
Okay, so look, if you're ever thinking about voting for you, and you're out there and you're listening to this in Memphis, man, remember he's there to protect your stuff, okay?
Right.
Not to audit you. So don't take that out on him. It is interesting, and I think it's important, because look, we are both in Memphis, right? I'm from here. You're from here. This is our community, and obviously this goes out to, hopefully a bigger audience, but in our school board here, you're not a full-time guy.
Right.
It's a part-time job. And I want you to go and say what you get paid for being on the school board, because I think it's important for people to know what
we get paid approximately $24,000 a year. I've seen the $80,000 that's out there. Like, I don't know. I think people are doing a Google search the wrong way. But we get paid $24,000.
Yeah.
And if you're a charity, it's an extra $1,000. And the city is $34,000, and the county is, I think, it's $34,000.
Well, that's for the city council and the county commissioners.
But
right.
Shelby County School Board is $24,000 a year.
And it's funny, even though you guys have a much bigger budget than both those. The school board has a bigger budget. What is the budget right now?
So currently the budget right now is, if I'm not mistaken, is $1.9 billion.
That includes some ESSER funds and some other things? Is it like 1.7 without those, 1.6?
I think it did include some ESSER funds. I think we've spent all the ESSER dollars currently this year, but overall it's $1.9 billion.
Okay. You got to say that billion a little slower. I didn't go to math school. Right? B is a big word.
B is a big word.
I mean, if you thought about it like a business, and I think we got to start thinking about our schools like businesses, right? $1.9 billion business, and the leadership, you get paid $24,000.
That's right.
Okay, so let's keep that in perspective, because when I was on the election commission here, I think we got $12,000 or something, and I was like, I'd spend 30 hours a week. How many hours do you think you're working on the school board right now?
So, fortunately enough, I think I can't calculate the hours, because it's an ongoing process. It's an ongoing process. And so I know I'm going to, I work at night, so I'm answering emails at night, I'm waking up to phone calls, and mentally I'm consistently thinking about the constituents, how I can get better, maybe the previous board meeting, what's coming up at the board meeting, and just innovative ways of thinking. So for me, it's an ongoing process.
So when did your term start?
It started September 1st, 2024. We got elected August 1st, and we officially became board members, sworn in on August 29th.
So not a year yet.
It's not. It hasn't been a year yet.
Man. You guys have gone through some stuff in less than a year, man.
I've went and bought as much Just For Men as possible, because I've gone gray hairs, and so I've actually got stock in Just For Men now, just because of all the gray hairs and everything that's happened.
Brother, look at my face, man. You're still a rookie in the gray face. So I'm gonna. This is your first elected spot, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, man. So, man, I was in the military. You say sir a lot. I'm used to it.
Okay.
But it still makes me feel weird.
Okay.
You're out there doing God's work, trying to serve the kids. You call me sir. Thank you, though. So, what so far has been the most, jaw-dropping, eye-opening thing that you've learned since you've gone from trying to lead to now leading? What's the biggest shocker?
The biggest shocker is like we discussed earlier, like the amount of hours and time it takes to learn. I think for it to be an effective school board member, or maybe any elected official possible, you truly need that first year or two just to learn. But some of the biggest shock is, again, it's the amount of hours it takes. It's because there's a difference between campaigning and governing. So now we have to learn policies. We have to look at things from a different lens. I like to say that, we are representatives. People like to say, well, what our local leaders are doing. I don't like the word leader all the time, because I don't think that we should be leading people. I think people are leaders of themselves. But we are the word representatives means to represent. And so the thing that we're representing is the voices of our community, people who elect us. Now, if a person can learn how to lead themselves individually, and once we can come together as a collective group of leaders, not followers, but leaders, then we can lead each other in a way that we can move Memphis forward. And that's always been my thought, because I love history and I love language. So one thing about me is learning language has guided me through life. But that doesn't answer the question. The biggest shocker is the amount of the lack of information that the public has.
Well, and I think that, like, our founding fathers, we're a republic, not a democracy, right? Mm-hmm. Because I think that the rationale was, man, the population doesn't have time to learn every policy and every law. They hire somebody, to represent them, hence a representative, to know all that stuff.
Yes, sir.
Right? So the population's never going to know enough. Mm-hmm. The only thing that's happened because of social media is people get a lot of misinformation.
That's true.
Have you seen any misinformation that's out there that you've been having to correct?
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to really think. So I guess so I get real specific. School board members make $80,000 a year.
Oh yeah.
So those type of things. Given the recent personnel changes that we had in the district, they did this because of that type of stuff.
Let's talk about personnel changes. Mm-hmm. So, did you have to vote on cutting the old superintendent out?
Yes, I was in the minority of the 9 vote.
So you voted to keep her?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Okay, why is that?
So my reason and rationale for it is because the previous school board went through 2 years to find a superintendent. So they found a superintendent. We usually give teachers 3 years just to pass the praxis test to become certified teachers. So my thought was, hey, I'm a newly elected school board member. I would love to work with the superintendent. I was doing interviews while I was campaigning, and the news asked me, how you think about the new superintendent? I said, I love the energy she was bringing to the city, but that's all I knew about her. So we was going to have a new board, new superintendent. I was ready to roll. So again, another reason why I voted to keep her, because I've had great relationships with her. Of course, I was talking to my constituents, talking to the principals and teachers, and people had issues, but I truly thought you could work through those issues.
So I certainly wasn't, in the mix and all that, mm-hmm. but we've learned one thing here at our little shop. We got about 80 or 90 employees, 80 or 90, something like that now. I don't know. And it's a lot for little Brian Stevens. but we learned that the people that interview well don't always perform well.
Okay.
The people that communicate well don't always do well. Now, and you got into this earlier, which was, it's one thing to campaign, it's another thing to govern.
That's right.
And I have found our shop's run well over 200 political campaigns over the years, and I've learned that a person that can get elected may do a terrible job governing, and the best person that can govern will never get elected. You know what I mean? It takes a real special person to do both. Mm-hmm. And I don't know about this with the former superintendent or not, but I'd heard so much, in small talk conversations, I'd heard so much in the public, read news on it, that dynamic, great, broad energy, but behind the scenes, she couldn't govern. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the truth was, but I get you were new and you maybe didn't know either.
So I did hear those things. And overall, my thought was, hey, we still can work through these issues, because she was only here for 8 months. And
yeah.
And so you have to give a person time to implement. And it's even to that particular thought. And then Aldo Grant talk about this. It's not how well a person can past performance doesn't predict future indicators as well. So for me, my framing of her was, it's how well a person can learn the job and move it forward.
Well, actually, what Grant said was, there's no better indicator for future performance than past performance.
That's it.
Okay, so you look at a person's past performance to predict future behavior. And yes, I do believe in people and that you can adjust the parameters some, but you're never going to get Brian Stevens to be quiet. Like, you're not going to get me to talk quietly. Like, I know people are, Brian, you're so like, yeah, man, it's kind of baked in, man. Like, I can't, and you're not going to get the military out of me. And so, yeah, I'm pretty tough, and I'm pretty much of a bear in a lot of leadership situations. So I'm never going to become like a soft, sweet, docile leader. And there are great leaders that are docile. Docile, I think in America we have this, being docile is bad. No, being meek's not bad either.
That's right.
It's just different.
That's right.
But past performance is the main indicator for future success. And I guess when I was reading the things about her bad performance in Detroit and how they wanted to exit her quickly.
Okay.
I was a little surprised when she got hired to begin with. But once again, I wasn't on that hire decision, and a lot of good people made the choice to hire her. Kevin Woods, Billy Work, a lot of good people. I was like, man, maybe they did do their homework. You know, they did their homework. They picked somebody. So to trust that for longer than 8 months kind of makes sense.
No, that's true. It's true. And like I said, I was in campaign mode, but I said, okay, hey, you spent 2 years again just to hire a superintendent. And so now we arrived to this point. So it's my job to take it and move forward. So yeah, it was an unfortunate situation, but overall you want to be fair to your constituents. You want to listen to your constituents. You want to listen to people in the central office. Yeah. You want to have those one-on-one conversations with the superintendent. So from my perspective, I never had any negative interactions with it. Education is a business. This is a business, but at the same time, like you say, you have to be a people's person as well.
Well, what a tough thing to come into from trying to get in your first office. Now you're in charge of, it's like winning, in a way, it's like winning the lottery, but with all the negatives that come with it too, right? Like you're in charge of a $1.9 billion enterprise. You have all these decisions, and in your first couple months, you have to make a decision about the leader. I mean,
That's
okay.
right. That's right.
Let's kind of talk about the future. I don't want to belabor too much of the past, but I think it's important for the parents, the moms and dads and everybody to understand how difficult the job can be and how it's better to try to find ways to support our elected leaders and not always go after them. You know, it's funny. I used to see this all the time. You get somebody and they get elected and they've been there a week and people are yelling at them about the things that have been going on with the problems in government for the last 50 years. And it's like, hey, I wasn't alive then. I wasn't even alive when you brought this problem up that happened in 1962. I wasn't alive in 62, and I know that stinks and it's awful, but would you work with me? And so I got this term. You can use this if you want to. Do you know who Reginald Milton is? Former county commissioner? Yeah, great guy. One of my tight friends.
Okay.
And Rich has this term called dragons.
Okay.
And he'd see it. He'd go to community meetings, and you get good people that want a voice, good people that want to help. But then you get the people that all they want to do is complain and burn everything down, and then when it's time to build, they fly away like a dragon.
I got you. Yeah.
So watch out for the dragons.
Yes, I got you. That's right. They are out there now. Some of these dragons are paid dragons.
A lot of them are.
Yeah.
Are you dealing with a situation right now where you think that there could be paid dragons going on to affect?
I do think people have the right thing in mind for us advocates. So you have advocates, you have activists, and you have disruptors, the dragons. And so I do think people have their heart in the right place, and they may be activists or advocates, but now it's but you're not supporting the cause. You're not actually allowing yourself to receive accurate information. You're just complaining and seeing things, want to see things your way without, again, actually having the information to go out and inform your influencers.
Well, and it's funny, and what you'll get into the let's say the activists sort of learned how to make money at it, which, hey, it's America, man. Good for you. I dig it. But their job is to advocate for that one position and not to be like, oh, wait a minute. The earth isn't flat. I need to change my opinion. Right. You know, ego gets involved.
That's
and
true.
People get entrenched. So I don't know. I think that, I've certainly seen that a lot. We're literally groups busing people in just to advocate. Anyway, let's talk about some of the issues that you're facing, coming up. Talking about governance, right? One of the things were you've got deferred maintenance budgets. You've got needs that your budgets are going down, not up. Vouchers are on the. What is there a plan right now to deal with decreasing budgets in your district? Do you?
So the deferred maintenance has always been an issue. I guess since Memphis-Shelby County Schools or Memphis City Schools started. So it's always been an issue. I think on average our buildings are 62 years old, on average. I do hear the county commission argument say, hey, we've invested money in the state as well. We've invested money into this budget, into deferred maintenance. What's happening? What is the issue? I do think that once we start having a conversation with the community about, hey, we may have to close schools and consolidate schools. That way we can have a school that's full of teachers. We can start the school first day and say, hey, we have fully staffed teachers. There's always been a problem with the HVAC. and we need to figure out where the money is going or how the money is being spent. So again, those are ongoing issues, and we just got to, as a school board member, you have to continue to deal with it.
Let's talk about school closings for a minute. It's interesting. Okay. I was talking with a district in New York, and I think we're going to release that podcast later. Is they can't close schools. Now legally they can close schools, and financially they should close schools. So if you have a school that used to have 500 and now it's got 150 in it, but they're not allowed to close it, and it's because of the parents.
Okay.
The parents lose their minds. You can't close the school. You can't close the school. You can't close the school. So wait a minute. You won't let us maintain all these schools because we can't get the budget for it. Tell me if I'm framing the problem right. You won't give us the money to keep them all. We don't have the students that we used to in this particular area. So the school has 35% of the population, but the parents are the ones that are stopping us from putting the babies in a school that's better maintained.
That's true.
Have you seen that yet?
It happens, and you framed it perfectly. So I'm from Orange Mound. Graduated from Melrose High School, and so
you just upset a lot of people that Melrose. Okay, but some people love you. So, okay.
And so the thought of, let's say, closing Melrose High School, hypothetically, people have memories connected to buildings. Buildings have memories connected to people, and so just the thought of closing those schools, it's like, it's an argument, but we haven't done a great job to show our constituents, to show the city of Memphis that, okay, this is what a new, innovative technology school building looks like. So we have to continue to build those type of schools.
Well, the thing is, and I think you hit on something. It's their history, right? So I don't want somebody to destroy where I went to school. That's my history. That's my place. So I am going to advocate to keep my school there because it was my school and I want to see it. And maybe, there is a lot of history connected with that. And it is sad to see part of your history go away. What they say the most stressful things are, I know you're a student of psychology too. And it's like, death, a divorce, a move, any type of transition can cause like depression, right? And so how do you explain to them that it's okay for them to let go of their history?
So the thing is, history has to be continued taught through generation. So yes, we have to explain to them, and I'm also saying to those same people that are saying that, help us advocate for more resources as well. You have to continue to be involved in the school, not just when the time's come, we're about to close the school. Now you all of a sudden care about education and you care about the school building. We have to pick up. I was listening to a guy talk. I can't pull his name up right now. It's old school educational philosopher. And Jonathan Kuzo. Okay. And he said that you have schools named Dr. Martin Luther King, John P. Freeman, BTW, but yet it's trash around the school. So how are we going to have these buildings with all these great men names and it's trash around the school? So as much as we like to say, hey, don't shut down the history, we have to preserve the history and actually think about the building that you're actually talking about.
Yeah, but the issue is, especially in the face of school vouchers and school competition, lowering birth rates, you're going to have and movement of people. Some schools don't have enough students in them to justify staying open. They just don't do it. And,
That's right.
But if the parents fight you and make you keep it open, it's like a post office in the middle of nowhere that like three people say, you can't close, this is my post office. But everybody moved out of the city. There's no reason to have a post office, but they want the taxpayers to keep funding it. So how do you explain to people, or do you just ignore the complaints and shut it down if it's a prudent business decision?
I think we show them what a new facility can look like. That's what I think we have to educate. And that's what we're being elected to do, is to inform and guide and lead in that way. They elected us to actually help make better decisions for the community. So we have to show them, have to bring community partners in and say, hey, this is what the 21st century school looks like. This is what we can do. We can, upgrade it with new technologies, new HVAC systems, whatever. We have to show them give them a glimpse into a future and what a newly built school would look like. So we have to, again, I think you just have to inform them and bring them along.
I mean, I'm a big proponent in bringing people along. I'm a big proponent in giving them information early and often, which
True.
Often you can't do because of budget issues and time and all these things. But it is important. But I also know that the schools that have done that, and right here we've tried that, and tried bringing people, and they still wouldn't. They lost their minds, and then ultimately this is not this board, but past boards wouldn't close the school. Even though it was the right financial decision, it was the right thing for the students, by the way. The students were in the school because the students didn't have all the same resources. They had a dwindling school, empty classrooms, and they could have gone to a more innovative, awesome, dope school. But the historic parents would lose their minds, and the school board members, or even the county commissioner or city council would chalk up, you can't close the school because they're afraid of not getting reelected.
Yeah.
So how do we overcome that?
So again, that's one of those tough things. And so I'm saying, as with me talking to a parent, I'm saying if our objective is to build new schools, safer communities, safer schools, we have to educate them and bring them along and say, hey, this is what the 21st century of schools look like. We want our children to go to the neighborhood schools. We don't want you shouldn't have to drive your child across town to go to a school that's perceived to be better. I don't even think you should have to pay $20,000, $30,000 a year for your child to go to school. Now, if you want to do that, because I believe in that every child, if as a parent, you want to put your child in the best educational situation possible, environment.
Yeah. I mean, like, I got it. And you sound awesome. And if that works, it will convince some of the parents, but not the loud ones.
Yeah, right.
And so what I have seen through just my experience of doing this for a long time now is they don't shut the schools down. And it continues to be a massive burden on the district, the students and the staff. So why won't school board members, I kind of know it. I mean, they want to get reelected, right? But what can we do to get the school board members strong enough to make those decisions, even if the parents don't go along with it?
Well, we have to continue, but like they say, put the main thing first. We have to our job is to do what's best for the students and for the district. We have to be good stewards of the money in the budget. So, yes, you're going to have, and I don't want to call those people dragons, but yes, you're going to have those people who are really concerned.
Yeah, I don't think they're dragons. I think that they're people that are, and I like the way you framed it, and I hadn't really thought about it that way. It's people that are losing their history, and that stinks, man. But history is the past, and the board is there to, I kind of think, focus on the future.
Right.
I just wish that the school board members, one, did all those things to educate, but then ultimately made tougher decisions to support the kids. But I don't.
And if you're in this position, and you're not willing to make the tough decisions, because a lot of decisions have been made with closing schools, hiring and firing superintendents to cut jobs. For me, as a school board representative, this is why I take the role serious. Because again, and if people don't take those type of thoughts into consideration, then I think they shouldn't be there. But ultimately, we have to do what's best for our children, along with having community input. And then, to your point, some people say, "Well, we got to do what's the will of the people." Sometimes the will of the people are misinformed.
No. And that is not what a republic. The will of the people is not what a republic's about. That is absolutely not the case. That is a populace.
I see.
Okay? So a populace is a democracy. We don't have a democracy. We have a republic. You're hired to represent us because we kind of get back and educating the population on, no, we hire you to go do the homework. We hire you to go do the law because I'm busy. Got to get to soccer practice. I got to pay my bills. I want to go ride my bike, right? So I'm hiring you to do it. But then we have to actually trust that you're going to do it, and that's where the breakdown has happened in the last 30 years.
Okay.
Right? We're slowly trying to become a democracy. We're going to vote on and let the people vote on every decision that happens. No, we have a representative democracy, which is a republic. So it's like we've got to trust the elected leaders to make the right decisions, and I wish we would.
Yeah.
Because you know more about it than I do.
That's right. And let the elected leaders do their job. Let the elected leaders hire or fire the one employee that they have. Yeah. Let the elected leaders pass the budget, balance the budget, and create new policies. Let them do the job.
It's funny, I'm going to get hate mail. I'm going to get hate mail over this because somebody's out there going, I can hear him. I can hear his name right now. He's going, I'll do what I want, Brian. I'll yell at whoever I want to. I'll do. Yeah, then go get elected, man.
That's
like,
right.
Go run for office, and then you'll see just how complicated it is. It was funny when I don't know why this popped in my head, but like, I'm a military guy, and Obama had said during his campaign that he was going to shut down Gitmo.
Okay, yeah.
And then he didn't. Because when he became president, he went, oh, he must have learned something that changed his opinion. He was like, we can't do that. I don't know what he learned. I wasn't in the room. But you certainly learn more when you're in the spot, and I guess that would be cool if people realize that you probably know more about what's going on than we do.
That's right.
I don't know.
Right.
I just think that's. I don't know.
Sometimes you do have the advantage of having a glimpse into the future, and so that way we can come back and articulate that to our constituents.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I got some other things that I know people are curious about, man. But that was okay. So you guys are involved in a lawsuit over a school data breach by Power School, and for those of you that don't know. Tell me if I'm saying this wrong. Power School is a student information services that a lot of, I don't know what the percentage is, but they represent probably a majority of school districts across the nation.
That's right.
Where they track our information. So what?
Yeah.
Did my kid let stuff get out there? What's happening?
It was a nationwide data breach, and so we was a part of a class action lawsuit. So if I'm not mistaken, somebody decided to file on our behalf because of Power School data breach. To this date, I don't know. None of our Memphis-Shelby County School students, parents' information got leaked. To this date, that I know of. Oh. Now I can go back and double check myself, but the concern was there because it got blasted all over the news, and people are just reading the headlines without clicking the actual article. So again, to this day, I don't think that any of the data breach has happened where our children information has got lost, but. But as a school board commissioner, what we should be doing is asking the right questions to our administration. Hey, what besides Power School, because they do have a monopoly of the student enterprise database. What other alternatives are there to house student data?
Well, yeah, and then obviously with hackers, those could breach too. There's nothing totally secure. As a nation, we have HIPAA law to protect our healthcare privacy, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a law called FERPA. The Family and Educational Policy Act. I'm probably saying it wrong, and it's designed to protect student information, and that's the law. So, but it's funny. I didn't know that Memphis-Shelby County students' information was leaked. I didn't. So you just taught me something.
Yeah.
So misinformation, right, or not? But so you guys are doing it just in case. You're filing a lawsuit just in case, so you can dig in and make sure.
Yeah, well, somebody filed it on our behalf. They added us to the class action lawsuit.
Yeah.
And so, but I can go back and double check myself. But as a board member to the date, we haven't received anybody's information as far as a data breach.
Man, I hope that we can get that at the local news outlets a little bit more. Keep doing it. I'll try to do my part. It's like, no, we don't think we were part of it, and they represent millions and tens of millions of students at Power School. Okay, so good. I'm going to put a check mark. Thanks for that. And yeah, if you find out something different, come back on the show, man.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, we'll dig into that. Okay. Well, okay. For those of you that have been living in Timbuktu for the last couple of years, our state, and this is a power dynamic, is we have a very strong Democratic presence in Shelby County, and in Nashville, the state, it's very Republican. So you get a little bit of a maybe we don't always work together as we should, but just be aware of that. At some point, I might have to give a history lesson on Boss Crump and how Memphis and Shelby County used to dominate the state, and now the fact that we're not in charge, people want to make us pay for the sins of our past. I don't know. I see that. Boss Crump was a heck of a bad guy to other people and good to I don't know. So what is going on with the state still talking about potentially taking over Shelby County schools?
So, and I read the articles just like everybody does, the Daily Memphis articles and everything and Commercial Appeal. So as of right now, I think it's on pause, the particular bill. It's on hold. We do have an opportunity right now to show the city, the county, and the state that, hey, we have our stuff together. We're a newly elected board. But, yeah, we had hit some rocky roads because no new school board has to automatically make a decision to hire and fire a superintendent their first 3 months in office. So there's some things that happen because, and not to keep talking about her, but she came in. She brought a different energy to the district where people hadn't seen a superintendent really interact with people, and she was a great PR person as well because she has that background. But with the state, again, we have a great opportunity to show, hey, we have a great facilities plan. We are improving in literacy. We are trying to get our teachers trained, and we are in board members. We're trying to get educated more. So we have just a great opportunity to prove, for lack of a better term, to the state that people elected us to do a job, like we were saying earlier. Allow us to do our job. Should no other governing body tell another governing body what they should or should be doing. What we should be doing is strengthening each other and collaborating each other.
Yeah. And then there's, once again, I think maybe our theme today is like misinformation a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I think about this study that people hold on to, which is like, well, public schools aren't providing as good of a service and the test scores aren't as good. And it's like, well, wait a minute, man. Public schools by law, have got to educate every child. We can't recruit just the smart kids or the talented kids or the kids with money to go to our charter school or a private school. Like, we got to educate all of them.
Right.
And we have as many people living in poverty in Shelby County as there are citizens in Chattanooga. Right. So you got to impoverish kids. And I'm going to tell one little story. Okay. Because it ticks me off.
Okay.
So this was years ago. And before I got really, really neck deep in school stuff, I was involved in a lot of community stuff here in Memphis. And I was talking with a mom when we had Memphis schools and we had Shelby County schools districts.
Okay.
The two separate districts. One was rural, more affluent, more families with more money. There's certainly poor people in Shelby County, but more rich people. And in Memphis, more impoverished. Okay, so those were the parameters, right? And I think at the time, this is a long time ago, but I think it was Memphis-Shelby County was spending like $16,000 per student, and Shelby County was spending like $11,000 less. But Shelby County had better numbers. And the mom was like, why would we want to have anything to do with Memphis County when they're spending more and getting worse results? And I went, hold on. The world's a complex creature. Suburban mom. Oh, I remember what this was. We were fighting a Walmart going in at Houston Levy. The school out there, I was working with the school district, I think it was Pisgah, because they didn't want a Walmart open up right down there and have their kids have to go by all the extra traffic. And so they were trying to fight the Walmart. We won, by the way.
Okay.
We stopped urban sprawl. It was good. And so the moms were really concerned about Memphis, we're going to be taken over by those people or whatever, And I'm like, hold on. Do you take your child to the zoo? Well, yeah. Okay. Do you ever read to your child at night? Well, yeah. Oh, okay. Have you ever, gotten a tutor for your child if they were having problems? Well, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Great. That makes sense. I got another question for you. Is your electricity on most days because you pay your bills? Well, yeah, Brian. And I go, no, hold on. I'm just framing the topic for you.
Yeah.
Okay. You go to another school. Like I volunteered at Hawkins Mill back in the day. And I go, so you have a child that their parents don't have money to take them to the zoo. They don't have money for tutoring. They don't have money for extra books. They're going home and they're worried about what they're going to eat. They're worried about getting hit by gangs from point A to point B. Maybe their electricity's on, maybe it's not. And I know this because I was that little kid. Okay, this is in Florida, but I didn't know if our power was going to be on. I didn't know if my sister didn't cook macaroni and cheese for me that night. I mean, my mother had to work, dude. I wouldn't eat. And we're still better off than a lot. So I go, you telling a little kid to pull themselves up by their bootstraps when they got no boots. So when you augment a Shelby County, this was back in the day, Shelby County student, they got the $11,000 that the taxpayers invest, but you're investing like you take your kid to a museum or you read to them or you teach them. They're getting 10x that. Where in Memphis, that learning dollar might be the only learning they get. That's their full educational dollar because they're not going to the zoo. They're not getting books read to them. They're, parents are working or doing whatever. They're being raised by grandparents. So, and she went, oh. I go, so you don't want to give that kid a little bit more to try to get them to become a successful adult? Right. And they all went, we didn't know. I go, but now you do. Like now you do know, right? And so when we talk about this state takeover, I would encourage the school board to advocate with, here's the reality. We have more students in need, and if you want them to become productive members of society, we've got to augment their education dollars. And I don't hear that argument. That's
right. Yeah, you hear people say we need to fully fund education, and even for myself, I've always wondered what does fully fund education mean, and what does we need more resources mean? Because prior to me becoming a school board, I used to work in the district as well as a teacher assistant. But prior to that, I taught literacy classes in a daycare, and I was saying, well, the only thing I had was a piece of chalk and a chalkboard, and I was getting those children to learn how to read. How many more resources do you need? I do understand the overall argument, so I've always been confused about that. So if you hear politicians and people say we need to fully fund education, I'm just trying to figure out what does that really mean.
That sounds like garbledy-gook consultant talk. Fully fund. No one knows what that means, and it sounds like BS to me.
Right.
But I would say this, to say, well, this district is spending $12,000 per student, and they get these great test scores, and you're spending $15,000 and getting lower. That is not an apples-to-apples comparison like they try to present it. So
right.
I think it was Mark Twain. Jack, was it Mark Twain? Lies, damn lies. Okay, yeah, it was Mark. Jack saying yes. So Mark Twain said lies, damn lies, and statistics. So I think we've got to watch out for.
It was Mark Twain.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Is for getting rolled over with using statistics. So there was another one that came out that said in the last 50 years, we've increased student budgets by 57%, but student populations have only increased 10%, and our test scores have gotten no better. Well, there's another thing that happened during those last 50 years, but everyone wants to ignore that. It's all these federal laws, Title I, Title VI, Title IX, Title II, all this good laws, by the way. It's good not to discriminate. In case anyone, it's good not to discriminate. We don't want to discriminate. The Americans with Disabilities Act, great law, fantastic law. Supreme Court just came out with a new ruling on that, which will affect schools, by the way. And when's that podcast going out? That'll probably be out before this one will. So you should link to it in here. Is about the effects on school districts.
Okay.
But all these laws have come into place that we have to file paperwork and we have to comply with, and so you have all this increased burden that has nothing to do with teaching the kids, but we want to punish the teachers.
That's right. You want to punish the teachers, and so even with the whole arguments, I'm always concerned about what's going on in our children's brains. I like to look at the curriculum and how can we increase teacher effectiveness. How can we develop teachers more? Because to your point, those arguments are always going to be the apples to oranges in comparison, and we are putting money into the district. And the argument, the states are spending huge amounts of money. Where is the return on investment? So I like to really look and see, hey, what is the child once they get to school, regardless of everything that has happened to them to get to school. Once they get there, the school, the newer school building should be a safe haven for these children. Now, what are they learning when they get there? Because I'm suggesting that if our children can learn just how to use a dictionary properly, you may see test scores coming up.
Well, if they could learn, I don't know if the earth is not flat.
Right.
I mean, little fundamental things, you know what I mean? But I think my earlier premise on this was just because one school district is getting more resources doesn't mean that they have enough.
Right.
And just because some is getting less doesn't mean they have too much. They may have too much too. It's all about the populations and the individuals we're serving. So I had a speech impediment as a child.
Okay.
And learning disabilities. And I was in slow classes for a number of reasons. Maybe
Wow.
I had double HD, whatever they call it. I don't know. Military helped fix me, right? But without a speech pathologist on staff at a public school, I don't know what I'd be like right now. And I like to think I contribute to society at some level. I mean, I pay taxes. I try not to red lights. I don't rob from anybody. I try to be supportive of other things. But without that tool, without that resource, who knows?
That's right.
Who knows?
That's right.
And so to say, well, they have too much money as it is. Well, hold on. If you have an impoverished population and you want them to work out of poverty, maybe they need additional resources. I don't know what fully fund means, but do they need counselors to deal with anxiety? Do they deal with English language learners? Healthcare, food.
Right.
Food.
Right.
Do they need more food?
That's right.
How can a kid learn if he's hungry?
Right. Maybe the child just need glasses.
Oh,
but we haven't had the people the people in schools to diagnose all children. Say, hey, you need glasses.
Okay, so go to the state with this argument. Brent Kelly's a buddy of mine too. I think people's hearts are in the right places. They want better things for kids, right? But I think they missed the argument, which is, hey, Brent, hey, Governor, can a child learn better with or without glasses if they need them?
Right.
And they're going to go, well, yes. Our families can't afford glasses. The families that you're out there saying are doing a good job, they can afford glasses and contacts and makeup and diet. They don't have glasses, man. That is the best argument I've heard for if a kid didn't have or gets diagnosed with dyslexic. Man, I have two cousins. And because they've got the help they needed, our families can handle that. And they're going to crush life. But I had a cousin that was older than me that wasn't diagnosed and didn't get help. Man, he just never got it together.
So that is a great argument. So we do have to make all of our elected officials see the reality of things, because we have it's a certain section in Memphis where people don't even cross the railroad track. People who are, let's say, on the more wealthy side, they don't even know that people are having trouble paying the bills at the end of the month, let alone people it's in poverty. And then some people like to say it's engineered poverty as well. So one of the reasons one of the reasons I ran for school board is it was this tagline about if a child doesn't learn how to read by the third grade, well, on the third grade level by third grade, more than likely they may not graduate, and or may end up in jail. And I've always said to create that type of statistic, you have to create the environment. So now we're using our children as experiments to come up with statistics in order to justify the grant money to continue to run these theories on our children.
Yeah, we're chasing scores.
And chasing scores,
and the problem is, so let's get a little bit into school competition, okay? Because obviously, here at CASA, for anybody that doesn't know, like we recruit students back to public schools. Like that's our entire business. We used to do it for you guys. We don't do it for you anymore.
Wow.
But we recruited 1,700 students for you last year, I think. Yeah, something like that. And like new students from charter schools or private schools or whatever. And so with school competition in the mix, and people have choices, but we really don't have like an apples to apples comparison because of the No Child Left Behind, which was in the 80s or whatnot. Okay. That's the law that it sounds awesome. No child left behind. We're not going to leave anybody behind. But it's the thing that really forced us to focus on standardized testing and the lack of being nimble and adjust to our community. So now we're teaching to the test. So are you guys talking about trying to uncork that so you can really get down to what you're saying? So instead of testing to the test, or is that problem just too big?
So now this, personally, I'm a little different. I'm a little different because, so I just said, if we can get our children to learn how to read, use the dictionary properly, maybe they can test scores and come up. So when I say I'm a little different is I don't like to give children a lot of excuses of learning not how to learn. We all come from impoverished backgrounds at some point. So I'm saying once the child gets to school, what are they learning? Are they properly being educated? Are they learning how to read? Are they learning the vowel sounds correctly? And so now how can we get a child to say, hey, yes, I come from a poverty background, but I want to make something of myself. How can we get them how can we excite that child in the third grade at the 5, 6, 7-year-old?
So, God, man, I love it. Is there, man, you got so much going on. And so like, I'd like to kind of end with this. And maybe you haven't thought about it yet. You've been there for a few months yet, but not a year.
Right.
Do you have something that you want to attempt to achieve during and it's a 4-year term, right, for you?
Right now it's a 4-year term, but now they're trying to implement term limits. And I was like, it's no problem with the term limits, but it should have happened back in the day.
Term limits are interesting. I think that the term limit is every election's your term limit. I like to have people with some history and experience and not just boot them out to get fresh. Fresh blood is not always better blood.
That's right.
And that's just my thoughts,
No, that is true. That's true.
Sometimes you want, but every single election, you got a chance to unterm them. But anyway, have you thought about something that like what your focus is going to be? Or are you still trying to get a big overview and try to tackle the issues that come up, or you got to focus on one thing? Or
no, that is true. That's true. Somebody asked me the question the other day, what do you want your legacy to be? I said, well, first of all, I'm just 40 years old. I'm not thinking about legacy. I just got elected. So what I want to do is I want to have a voice. I want to be a voice for children. I want to be an advocate. So that's one of the reasons why I ran. But I haven't thought about big picture. I know overall right now is I do want to just excite children on learning how to learn and just telling them that, hey, you got your whole future ahead of you. But we have a lot of bit of fires that we have to put out. I have to do the job of an elected official. I have to be a politician. I have to advocate for more resources. So that type of work for me is actually fun because I'm learning. I want to listen to the people. I want to try to address some of the systemic issues like we were talking about that has plagued our district for a while.
It's interesting. I don't like this term legacy. I know what people mean. I know it's a positive thing. Like, what are you going to accomplish? I like to know, like, what are you going to do for the kids, man?
That's right.
What are you going to do for the people? And I like your take on it. It's like, no, I'm not really worried about legacy. Yeah. I'm worried about just like I got to get a lot done, and it's overwhelming. Man, I hope you come back on. I've learned a lot today.
Without a doubt. I appreciate you.
All right, thanks, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.